We're going to be looking at the must-starts and sneaky starts for the Thursday night game and the Friday night game to get things started so you can set your lineups. We're going to look at the overall matchups, try and guess the game flow, and then just look at the major fantasy players in this game. We'll have another one for the Sunday slate here in the next few days to get you prepared for that. We'll do a must-start video and a sneaky start video as things start to ramp up this season. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we'll be kicking out videos every day. We'll be doing deep dives on players, talking about the waiver wire non-stop, especially next week after our first full week of football. There's going to be some players to talk about, and we're going to talk about the waiver wire from Sunday to Friday and in between, and on top of that, doing deep dives and helping you set your lineups. Click that button. Stop missing out. But we're going to be looking at the Thursday night game here first. Ravens at the Chiefs. 46.5 over-under. And you have to note that the over-under is a point predictor to look at because Vegas doesn't want to be too far off when picking the total here. So 46.5 over-under indicates that this is going to be a moderately scoring game, potentially, when you look at both sides of the ball. On top of that, though, usually the lines are a little bit higher than compared to the end of the season. So there's a good chance that you may want to go with the under on this one. However, when you're looking at this, there's a chance this game could break open. But we got some other data here that you may want to think about here. In their last three matchups, the Chiefs has averaged 94 rushing yards per game. Ravens 163 per game. And then the passing yards is in line with the Chiefs. 319, 185 with the Ravens. So that being said, we kind of know where the offense is going to flow at for each team. The run game for the Ravens, the passing game for the Chiefs. But not too bad on the run game for the Chiefs either. They're just going to be moving the football. When you look at the Ravens, you're starting Derrick Henry. You're starting Derrick Henry. You drafted him pretty high. Second round, high in third round, somewhere around there. He's going to get the touches. He's ranked pretty low here for PPR. When you think about all the workload he's supposed to get, the matchup's not too great. But again, when you're grinding workload, opportunities are going to happen. You're on a team that's a run-first team. He's going to get volume. I believe you should have him up a few spots. The one on the left, the rankings are from Fantasy Pros. The one on the right is from 4for4. 4for4, to me, has been historically, over the long term, year in and year out, the most accurate place to get rankings. They got him at 13 as well. And the other one from Fantasy Pros is an average here. But looking at the run defense for the Chiefs from last year, and I know things have changed, but they've been kind of locked down on the running back a little bit. That does not scare me on Derrick Henry. I think the workload's going to be there. And any gap that's open that he gets through, there's a good chance that he can house it. He's got that size-adjusted athleticism. He's Derrick Henry. We're on the Ravens. I want to see this through. I want to see the volume. Nobody's benching Derrick Henry this week. Zay Flowers, a different question here. There's going to be a lot of fantasy gamers looking at Zay Flowers wondering whether or not to start him. He's a flex option, a wide receiver too that you're looking at. He should push for around a 20% target share in this game. He should push for that. He should get a fair amount of targets. If he scores a touchdown, it's going to be worth your while. If not, then you're hoping he racks up them catches and gets you fantasy production. Ranked around wide receiver 28 on Fantasy Pros, 38 on Zay Flowers. So a flex option, and you might be scratching your head with him. And again, the matchup could dictate this. He might catch his fantasy points in garbage time. I like T. Higgins ahead of him. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba and him as a good push. George Pickens I like better than him. Chris Godwin might be a tad safer. So even guys ranked behind him might have more opportunity. Deontay Johnson I feel like is a little bit low considering he should be getting good target share. But Zay Flowers is a guy that you're scratching your head with. I'm starting Rashee Rice ahead of him for sure. I'm starting Stephon Diggs ahead of him for sure. Brandon Ayuk, I'm starting ahead of him for sure. Again, pick your poison. Terry McLaurin, I'm starting ahead of him for sure. But Zay Flowers is just going to be in the mix. Now you're looking at Mark Andrews. You're starting him. He's a top 5, top 3, top 1 wide receiver in fantasy this week. He's going to get volume against a defense that slows things down, but it doesn't matter. The volume's going to be kicking his way, and you're starting him every week. Tight ends are volatile. He'll be volatile because that's the tight end position, but you drafted him, and hopefully if you paid that much for a Mark Andrews in your drafts, that you did not pick up another tight end and wasted that roster spot to have those decisions. Mark Andrews, most of you guys are starting him. Now to the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco. You're starting him, And I like Derrick Henry. I feel like he's a little bit low. I get you're playing against the Ravens. This might be a slower paced game. And now that we're looking at the players in this light, you may want to think about the under in this game. You may want to think about the under in this one. You may want to look at that. 46.5 is what DraftKings is giving you. You may want to place that bet because both defenses are looking to slow things down. The Chiefs offense really has to get humming against a nasty Ravens defense. They really have to do that. But Pacheco here, ranked higher on 4 for 4, 12 as an RB1. You're starting him, at least as an RB2, maybe as your RB1, depending on how your build went. But he's startable, should be getting the workload, especially around the goal line, should be getting a lot of opportunities in this game. Rashee Rice is startable as a wide receiver too. That's what the rankings are saying. And then just looking at it one for one, I believe he's very safe. I believe the Chiefs are going to be looking to push the rock downfield, through the air. Fast-paced offense. They ran more plays than any other NFL team in the league last year. So look for a lot of plays ran, giving him a lot of opportunity. And the fact he's on the field, he ramped up last year, looking good in camp, and was like one of the best players for the Chiefs in camp this year. That being said, he's a push with a lot of these players. You may take him over Amari Cooper. You may do that. I like Brandon Ayuk a little bit more, but some people are questioning that. Terry McLaurin's a good push. Zay Flowers, I don't like him as much as Rashee Rice. I believe Rashee Rice is a good start this week. Now we're looking at Xavier Worthy. He's an upside gamble, and he will be until he proves himself, and that's how it's going to be throughout the season. And I believe both sites are playing it safe with him, which you should. You don't want to put your name on the line with a guy that's going to be a gamble week to week with that 4.2 speed. But any given play, all it takes is a breakdown in coverage, and coverage can break down on you pretty quickly when you run a 4.2. All it takes is one, and he's got a big game. That's the thing about Xavier Worthy. He should be on the field, should be running routes, and if he's running routes in this offense, in a game script like this that could be tight with a spread of around 3, this could be an interesting matchup for a guy like this to blow up in his first game. Travis Kelce, you're starting him. I don't really think there's an argument to that. The defensive matchup isn't too glorious for him, but you're starting Travis Kelce. You're starting both quarterbacks. You draft them high. Don't worry about it too much. Don't overthink it. And then for the sneaky plays, Rashad Bateman's always going to be a sneaky play. He's looking healthy. He hasn't been healthy for quite some time now, year and a half or longer, and now he's looking healthy. Could be getting more looks, might get more production than Zay Flowers, so look for him. And at the end of last season, he was breaking up DBs with good route running. It wasn't resulting to fantasy production, but this offense doesn't push fantasy production for wide receivers either. That's why you want to look at the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 1B and this offense as a sneaky play than a must play. Justin Watson's always a sneaky play. He's a downfield threat. Marquise Hollywood-Brown likely out, more than likely out. And if that's happening, Watson will get more run in this offense, and they're going to push him downfield. And if he gets a couple targets and he brings one of those in, that could be a big week. If you're looking at DFS lineups, he's going to be cheap. He could be that lottery ticket for you. But now, Friday's matchup, Packers at the Eagles. Spread of 2.5, so they're going to say it's tight. 48.5 over-under, so we're pushing that 50 range. They're saying this is going to be a higher scoring game. There should be some high scoring output. And again, I would stay away from betting the over-under on this one. If you had to, maybe the under, considering it's kind of high and it's the start of the season. But Packers traveling to the Eagles. Interesting matchup. Everybody's going to be watching this one, and you're going to be starting a lot of guys in this matchup. And then you look at the series here. The Eagles are averaging 218 rushing yards per game against the Packers and 110.67 against the Eagles. But the passing yards, 152 for the Eagles, 312 for the Packers over their last 3 games. Very interesting here. Saquon Barkley should be getting some run, should be getting some opportunity, not just in the run game, but in the passing game as well. And you can run on the Packers a little bit. That being said, look for him to get opportunity, as he should. He's Saquon Barkley. They picked him up this offseason for a reason. They're going to show him off this week. Top 5 here in the rankings. Top 9 there with 4 for 4. That being said, you're starting Saquon Barkley if you draft him. A.J. Brown, top 5 wide receiver in the rankings right now. It's not like you're going to sit him. It's not the most glorious matchup, But again, this game should be fast-paced enough with enough scoring that could buoy his production. Same thing with Devonta Smith. Maybe only one of these wide receivers go off and the other one just gives you so-so production considering what they're going with against the Packers defense, considering what we saw last year and considering what we saw in the offseason. But look for one of these wide receivers to do something. It's usually a gamble week to week, but Devonta Smith could be that guy. A.J. Brown could be that guy. But there is some upside in this game considering there is some juice on the line with the point total. But Dallas Goedert, you're starting him, and you shouldn't have a top-tier tight end with Dallas Goedert. You should not have that option because if not, you're wasting a roster spot there. So you shouldn't have that argument. But he is ranked as a tight end 1 this week. This is a decent matchup for him, and this could happen considering the point total is kind of high, and it could lock down the wide receivers in some drives here, which could allow him to get funneled some targets, especially around the goal line. A guy to look at, but when you're looking at tight ends, you're trying to land in the top 5 range. Then after that, it really doesn't matter because most of those tight ends are going to push single digits. Even if it's 10 points, it's not really much though, because once you get out of that top 5-ish range, usually the tight ends are scoring 10 points or less, so the 25th best tight end that week isn't too far off from like the 10th or the 8th best tight end of that week. And you'll see that every week when you look at the tight end scoring. So don't overthink tight end too much. But going to the Packers side, Josh Jacobs, I believe he's low on the rankings here. I think he's going to get a lot of run. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. I think he's going to get a lot of touches here. I think they're going to ride him till the wheels fall off, and the touches is what matters at the running back position. And then the Packers wide receivers are just picking your poison here, honestly, you're going to have some head scratchers this week. Christian Watson is an upside play. Any given week, he can give you nothing, or any given week, he can go off, and usually it's like a few weeks of nothing, and then boom, splash game. So it's really hard to lock him in as a must-start unless you're going against a pass funnel defense. The Eagles made some changes this offseason, so they might not be as much pass funnel this year as they were last year. They were last year allowing 29.1 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Jaden Reed, steady with targets. Romeo Doubs was dealing with an injury, but it looks like he's going to be ready to play. But Luke Musgrave is a guy you're thinking about starting. Really depends if you drafted him or not. But more than likely, you're probably good at tight end because you shouldn't be rostering 2 of them anyways. And if you got them, you might stream with them. Or you're looking at the matchups and you might make some DFS lineups here with Luke Musgrave because he's not going to be overly expensive. But of course, you're starting the quarterbacks here. It's a good matchup. The over-under is pretty high here. A good get to get one of these quarterbacks. Plus, you draft them pretty high. Dontavian Wicks, Jahan Dotson, sleeper plays. Not expecting Jahan Dotson to do much. But honestly, when you look at the Eagles team, you know where the ball's going. You know where it's going, so there's no real sleeper options there. So just throw out a guy like that. Dontavian Wicks, he really should have been with the batch of wide receivers, but honestly, he's also a sleeper play because he's usually lower in the rankings anyways. But he could go off on any given Sunday. He's got a lot of upside in those regards. But looking at these matchups, we're going to be seeing some fun football. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.